In today's biased news, capitalism is still ignoring climate change, France is still on fire, and the Norwegians find a big expensive rock. The global capitalist class is continuing their march towards extinction by not taking adequate measures to combat climate change. The consequences growing worse with each passing year. Climate talk preparations began in June for the annual summit, scheduled to be held in Dubai this November, with many nations failing to meet or even set more ambitious goals in the face of record-breaking heat waves and rising sea temperatures. This year marks the first time since the 1.5 Celsius level has been breached in the Northern Hemisphere summer. April and May heat records have also been broken this year. Currently, the US is facing extreme heat waves and power outages, as smoke from forest fires in Canada degrades air quality and visibility. Beijing has broken June temperature records, and monsoon rains along with unabating heat have increased mortality in several locations across India, despite there being up to 60% less rain in some regions. Argentina has seen a 4.2% drop in economic activity because of drought and other environmental damage to agriculture. In 2015, an international agreement was struck to try to keep temperature rise below 1.5 degrees Celsius, though this goal looks increasingly unlikely every year. Warmer water temperatures exacerbate dramatic weather events, which combined with human-related shipping activity has resulted in increased precarity for ocean life. Despite these clearly disastrous developments, the Worldwide Fund for Nature warned of a, quote, worrying lack of momentum concerning ongoing climate talks, which is unsurprising. Climate action is a process of massive state intervention, requiring the forceful mobilization of even private corporate assets towards the aims of transitioning to renewable energy, while simultaneously shutting down or downscaling massive polluters until alternatives are developed. This means economic degrowth, which before was simply one option, is quickly becoming an inevitability. The logic of the capitalist system, built on the idea of infinite growth on a finite planet, is completely at odds with any rational climate action, and rather hopes for miracle inventions as the crisis mounts. Only socialism, with dedicated and planned economic development towards set climate goals, can achieve meaningful change, as is evidenced by China, the only massive industrial power to be making serious headway in its climate plans. In France, riots and furious demonstrations have spread across the country, with attacks on police stations, corporate stores, and state institutions ramping up. The police appear to be overwhelmed by the number and determination of the protesters, as videos of damage and looting are circulating on social media. The anger towards the police is fueled by decades of racist repression, killings, systemic poverty, and discrimination. The protests have gone beyond the immediate issue, and encompass broader grievances against the government. People are protesting not only for justice for Nael, the 17-year-old boy gunned down by police, but also against past brutality and government actions targeting various movements like the Yellow Vests and environmental activists. The government has responded with a massive show of force, mobilizing 45,000 police and special military units and deploying armored vehicles equipped with heavy weaponry. They have also imposed curfews in certain areas and made hundreds of arrests. The uprising has the potential to escalate and pose a significant challenge to President Macron's government. The left has been called upon to support the protesters and mobilize for further actions. But thus far, the French communist response has been pathetic and cowardly. The right, meanwhile, has been seen mobilizing white supremacist gangs all over the country, utilizing the turmoil as a recruiting drive with the classic racist cleansing the foreign barbarians rhetoric. The cop who killed the child has raised over $1 million on GoFundMe. Israeli forces hit Jenin with airstrikes and ground raids carried out by hundreds of soldiers, killing at least 8 Palestinians. This is a continuation of the far-right apartheid government's plan to eventually annex all Palestinian land and complete the genocide that began in the 1940s. Russian accounts of frontline fighting reported success in containing Ukrainian troops in the northeast, and said its forces had pushed back Ukrainian attacks near villages ringing Bakhmut and in areas further south, particularly the strategic hilltop town of Vuhledar. Ukraine's deputy defense minister described the situation as, quote, complicated. She went on to say that Russian troops were advancing near Avdiivka, Marinka, Liman, and Svatova. George Soros' Open Society Foundations will lay off at least 40% of its staff 1 month after the 92-year-old announced he had handed the reins of the multi-billion-dollar foundation to his son, Alexander. While Soros is not the literal baby-eating demon cabal leader the right claims he is, the man is an absolute ghoul, and it seems his son is no better. And to finish with some positive news, a massive underground deposit of high-grade phosphate rock has been discovered in Norway, estimated to be at least 70 billion tons. This deposit is considered the world's largest, and could meet global demand for fertilizers, solar panels, and electric car batteries for the next 100 years. Phosphate rock is essential for phosphorus production in the fertilizer industry, and is also used in the production of solar panels and electric car batteries, among other applications. Imperialism for phosphate delayed. That's all for today. We'll be back day after tomorrow with more news. As always, you can support the show and get the news in text form a few hours early by becoming a patron at patreon.com/firstthought.